Hi, my name is Ryan Kingsline. I want to share with you here this almost step-by-step process through which Gurmukh goes through, creates a really awesome image like this, focusing on how do you add these extra little details like explosions and little fire and all of this stuff that really helps sell this and move it from just a 3D image into something that's very powerful, that can compel people and really engage your audience. Check it out.
All right, so let me bring my layers so you guys can see everything that I did. Let's see. There we go. Move that back. All right. Let me see, can I make this, hold on, make it a little smaller. All right, cool. So I'm gonna, what does that do? Yeah, cool. I'm just turning these red so I know which ones I don't need to turn on. And now I'm just gonna go through, turn everything off. Okay, cool. So now we have our back plate that we created before. And I brought my final render of my ships in. And just like I showed you guys last week, I rendered my images out as 32-bit TIFFs, bring them in, and then drop them down to 16-bit so that when I work and I do my brightness, contrast, and all of these like layer edits or whatever they're called, I don't get too much artifacting and stuff. And then eventually the final image, I'll merge it all down to an 8-bit PNG and save it out as 8-bit because I no longer need it as a 16-bit image, but that's just final image. My computer's strong and it can work this way. If yours can't, then don't do it. Do your major edits on 16-bit and then merge it down to 8-bit. If your Photoshop file gets too slow, and basically, I just start building it up. So there's one render with the red guidelines on, another render with the red guidelines off. Right now I did a brightness contrast over the whole thing, and then this one was like well, I don't even know what I did here. Oh, I don't know. Just brought it all back in. Then here is basically what I did for camo. So it's not camo, but it's more like the cut line variations in patterns. And so what I used to show me where all that goes was I used these guidelines, and then I just traced with a lasso tool. Basically, just went in there and traced out, the shape, and then just use brightness and contrast. So I use like a lighter, like a brightness that's bright, and then a darker version. And then in the mask I'll paint in, where I want the lighter green to show or where I want like the darker parts to show. And basically, sorry, I should be turning all these on and off so you can see them. But yeah, so those are the lighter panels, and then brightened up this part where the bombs are dropping out. Brightened it up again, added a yellow tint to it so it feels like there's an orange or a warm light inside that's kind of having it glow through. And then I did just with like a 2 pixel or 3 pixel brush, I traced around the edges where these like cut lines that I drew in were with and I did that on a bright. So let's see if I bring that over. It's like 51 bright, and there's no contrast on there. So I can change these to dark if I want, or super bright if I want, um, and then just paint it into the mask where they should show. And then I added a black cut line paint with like a 1 pixel or 2 pixel brush over it. So then that way you're getting a dark paint and a bright like highlight, so it almost feels like that edge is modeled in there, even though it isn't, because it feels like the light part is being caught, like the light line around is being caught by the light hitting that edge, and then the dark is like the ambient occlusion shadow. It's not real, it's fake, but basically, yeah, you get the idea of how I created that. And then let's see, this is for the retaliator in the back here. And so basically, I think I must have rendered out a lighter version of it because it was too dark. So I rendered out another like brighter version of it, then masked that in, and then started painting over and highlighting some of the parts where the explosions are. Just did a slight hue saturation to make it a little more blue tinted. Masked out some of these balls that I had, these glowing balls that I had in there. Started to paint some highlights. Let's see. Since this is all retaliator stuff, let's focus in on that. Oh yeah, so these are like dirts, like dirt paths like I showed you guys last week. Still doing that on something that's super far off in the distance. Painting in with, let's see, what is this set? That's on normal, so it's just like a really light brush. Painting in orange highlights on parts of the ship, so that the explosion feels like it's brightening up other parts of the ship. Brightened it up even more. Added an orange photo filter over that part so that the explosion glow feels like it's tinting everything a little bit orange. Not really sure what that one does. Oh, so we must be back to the other part of the ship now. Yeah, so this is just painting over some of the flat, funky modeling, clipping stuff that you've seen before and adding in dirt and stuff to the steel. Adding some dirt and scratches in a white, basically like I must have just used, so basically the same way I showed you last week, use that one dirt scratch brush, skew it into place, and then paint part of it out with another texture brush. This is the dirt, black dirt. So basically having two values of dirt, one is light and one is dark, it just helps things feel more interesting, adds like 2 layers of scratches and dirt. Started painting in some little reds and yellows and little colors that kind of highlight or clash with your green dark ship, and those kind of help pull your eyes in different directions and help you kind of notice little clashes of color in different places. Then here I added a glow, so that's the screen. I just used a paintbrush, and could even be just a color dodge, but I think what I did is I painted with a soft brush, a circle, skewed it into place, and then put it on screen. Here's with my ambient occlusion pass, so it's literally just is just adding a little bit of shadow to your overall thing, but it helps parts of geometry pop. With the explosions, let's see, just finding little fireballs and stuff on through Google, and then putting them on. I think right here I have a lighter color, but you can use screen stuff like that. So I'll show you. And this is how you do your lens flares, your light dust, all that stuff. So if we just, like, I think a good one that I used was fireworks. Go into the images, and maybe something like this could be kind of cool as like one thing, and then you'll add a fireball on top of it. So view the image. Let's see. Why is it taking so long? Maybe we'll go to this one, view this image. All right, cool. So copy the image from Google, paste it in. Let's just scale it down a little, bring it over here. And then let me put it on the top here. Basically, you have this black background, and then you have your bright firework explosion. Change that. You can try lighten, screen, let's see, color dodge, linear dodge, lighter color. So basically, they all, what I like to do is kind of scroll through them and see which one I like the best. And then you can just, put it into place where you want that explosion to happen. And then let's bring in let's see if we type in, and then you could just find like a big flame fireball type thing. This one looks like it might be all right. So you want it to have a black background, because when you put it on screen or lighten or whatever, the black is going to disappear, and then it's just the bright colors which are going to show. So copy that image and scale this down, put it there, and change it. We could try lighten first, screen, and you could just scroll through and figure out whichever one works the best for you. Lighten seems to be okay. And, just put it into place. And then eventually you'll do a little paint over and stuff like that. But that's how you're going to do all your lens flares, stuff like that, is in the same way. So let me delete these two. So that was, I did some explosions like that, and then on the next one was pretty much the same thing, just adding more fireball photos over the parts with the same technique. And then you can also see that, I was literally like erasing into some of these. I should have probably painted into the masks, but I guess I was probably feeling lazy. And then adding like more orange highlights to where the blasts, to like the surfaces that would kind of be reflecting the color of the blast. And then let's see what's next. Thruster flames. So is this all of them? I think it is all of them. All right, so for thruster flames, okay, cool. So you see, let's zoom in on this one first. They're all the same thing. So what I did was I went into Google, type in jet flame. Oops, I don't need the lighter. Jet flame. This is my favorite one. Let's see, where is it? Let me see, where is it? Maybe it's exhaust. This guy right here. So usually what I'll do, same thing, copy image, bring that into Photoshop, and then I'll just go ahead and delete the part that I don't need, which is all that stuff, and put it on screen, and then let's just skew it into place, and there you go. You have your, obviously I'll do a better job at putting it where I want it to go and making sure it's in the right perspective and stuff like that, and then masking out the part that isn't right, but that's literally all you have to do. So let me just continue to walk through the jet flame stuff. So basically I use that same exact one in multiple positions. So this one is down here. The next one, let's see, where is it? Oh, it's right above it. The next one is for this one right here. And then, oh, that, you guys are going to laugh. But I literally used one for the side thruster on this torpedo. And it's so tiny, it has like 5 pixels in it. But yeah, so I just scaled it and moved it into place there. And then, let's see what's next. We have some more hidden ones. And then for these ones up at the top, just put them into place here. And that's it, you know. So that's for the thrusters. Oh, and then let's see, what did I do here? I think I just painted some highlights so that this thing was a little bit brighter. So it's on color dodge, so if I just go normal, yeah, you can see it's just like a gray color painted on it. Color dodge add, I think, or maybe it was, oh yeah, regular color dodge, and that's it. For debris, for the explosion, let's zoom in. So basically, what I did was, so go into Google, type in, let's see, DEBRIS. Sorry, I'm not very good at spelling. Explosion, here we go. So you see all these things. So basically something with a white background with black information. You can bring this into Photoshop, and if you put it on multiply, the white goes away and the black stays. So go into Photoshop, paste this in. It's inverted, but that's an easy fix. Just select that, go down here, go to invert, and then we can merge these two together. And now if I put this on multiply, the white goes away and only the black stays. And so what I did here is I basically just took a bunch of that stuff, and it just looks like pieces of metal and things like that flying off, and I just added a bunch of that around. And then what I did was I took this magic wand tool and started like highlighting things, or just took like a texture brush and started painting in little orange dots here and there, so it looked like those debris pieces were catching highlights as well. So it's like the parts, the little tiny things that are breaking off are also catching a orange glow highlight. So that was all the debris stuff. And so you can see how it's all kind of starting to build up. And then let's see what's next. All right, so now you could barely tell. But what I did here is I added a photo filter. Let's see, if I flatten the image, so I create a new layer with everything below it flattened into one image, and I go to filter, and then what did I use? Distort. Where's ripple? Ripple. And so you can change the amount that it does to the whole ship, but basically let's just say like that's what we want. So now our whole image is all funky and rippled. Then just mask it out, invert the mask so now you don't see it, and take a brush. Clearly right now I'm just using a round soft brush, which is not what you necessarily want, but it's so that's the overall layer, and then with a white paint into the mask, just paint in where you want it to show, and just think about like where this is basically heat exhaust coming out of the back, and that heat exhaust kind of invisibly extends out a bit, so just adding it in a way that makes it feel like it has heat trailing out the back here, and then just so right now I'm just fading that out so it's not like it the heat kind of trails off, and it's really subtle, but it adds it adds a nice effect to your overall ship. And then what I do at the end, which I showed you last week, so basically these are most of my Photoshop edits to the overall image. I will Control Shift Alt E basically creates a new layer of all the layers below it merged, so it's all one image now. And I'll just do the filter, sharpen, unsharpen mask. And then now basically what that does is it unsharpens everything, and it basically crisps up a lot of your edges and a lot of your highlights and your dirt and all this stuff. So you can see with it off, it's a little soft. It looks good, but with it on, everything just pops a little bit more. And then what I did was I masked out the background, so it's mostly just showing the ships, the sharpen on the ships, and then I kept that at 100%. So it's all really subtle. The idea is keep everything subtle and just keep building up. But you could barely see the difference, but it makes a difference as an overall image. Add some brightness. I added a little bit of noise. You can't even really tell when I just turn it on and off, but if we zoom in, let's see, how does it look? It's really subtle. You can't even really tell. Maybe I even have it. Yeah, it's only on 28% opacity, so you could barely see it. And then I still continue to add in. I forgot to add in a label, so I just add in a little label here. Add in another one on the other side. Usually I do these in KeyShot, but I forgot to add it. I need to know what's going on here. That's an empty layer. Did a purple photo filter over the whole image. Is very subtle, but it helps kind of it helps to unify all the colors in the image. So the photo filter, you just turn it on down here, photo filter, and then I went in and usually what I do is I start with the warm one or whatever one, and I just scroll through with my middle mouse and start to see what each one kind of does to the image. On this one, I settled on violet, wherever that was. There we go. And then, like I showed you last week, just add a vignette to the edge to kind of help keep everything contained within the image. Here I edited the exhaust even more, made it more dramatic. I don't even know what I did on the next layer. Oh, here I painted in some blue to kind of make it seem like these lights were brightening up the sides a little bit. And then in the end, I just put my name on the bottom. So yeah, that's how I go about kind of using KeyShot and Photoshop to make my final in-situation renders, and basically like starting with your model, setting up the scene, locking in your camera position, finding a view that looks like it's going to tell a nice story. Basically, the story of this one I wanted to tell was the Vanguard is meant to kind of take down these medium to large size ships like the Retaliator and the Constellation, these kind of bigger ships in our game. So I wanted to kind of have the Vanguard in the foreground and then have these torpedoes leading the viewer's eye towards the explosion in the background on the Retaliator, and then have just like a nice space background and then the highlights of the space background are focusing on parts of the ship and making like an interesting shapes within the canvas. And then just you can see here it's mostly brightening up the space behind the ship, so it helps, because like if you could imagine this was just black back here, the ship would kind of bleed off into the distance and you wouldn't really see the overall shape and silhouette of this thing that's going on behind here. And so yeah, just using like lights and darks to kind of help push and pull different shapes and show the silhouette. And then just layering things up really subtly. Like I think where a lot of people go wrong with their Photoshop edits and things like that is they basically they go too bold. They want to make super bold moves, where if you just literally layer up little highlights of dirt and little highlights of, like, you see now, like the panel cut lines that some are dark and some are light. Like, it's so subtle you don't really notice it, but it helps to break up the overall image and helps to, or break up the overall design of the ship and add a slight variation of interest to make this thing more fun to look at, more interesting to look at, instead of just like you look at the ship and then you don't want to look at it anymore. You look at it and you kind of get lost within the design and the story that's being told, as far as like you're like, oh, I didn't even realize these little red and yellow triangles were here. Oh, I didn't realize these little text was here. Oh, there's like some interesting dirt or scratches going on. You want to start exploring your design even more, and that's the whole point of these images, is to kind of show, like is to kind of make people want to explore and see your designs even more.
Hope you enjoyed. Make sure you check out Gurmukh's course at conceptartworkshop.com. Registration is open now. See you in there.